I'm an old mountaineer, and I was married for many years to a very much better mountaineer than me, and she went and died. And she had problems with altitude. We used to climb the highest peaks in the Alps, and she would be sick on most of them because they were just above her limit. So when she died, I said, right, I'm going to go higher in her memory. So I wrote to this outfit called Action Challenge in London. They're very good, by the way, they were very efficient. And said to them, do you take a man of 82? Thinking they might refuse. And they came back and bit my hand off and said, if you climb Kilimanjaro at 82, you'll be the oldest man in the Guinness Book of Records that's ever done it. So from that moment on, they were so interested in helping me and getting the publicity that it all went swimmingly from that moment on. And they actually laid us on a special tour instead of the sort of 20 or 30 man tours that they normally do, and gave me an extra day halfway up the mountain on which we didn't do anything very useful but just got acclimatized to the altitude. And so we went, and it all went absolutely swimmingly. The organization was fantastic. I've actually been giving money to Willen for years, saying to myself, I might end up there. So I used to call it my death insurance. And then when I was in my late 70s, my GP informed me that none of his patients had ever died of cancer over the age, that they started over the age of 75. And I thought that was going to discourage me, but it didn't. I went on giving money to them. And this was the perfect opportunity. Well, we've got a website, which is the easiest way of giving because they can recover the tax on it. And with the recovered tax, that's at about £4,400 as of today. And then there's a lot of bits and bobs of cash and checks and so on, probably about another £300 or £400, something like that. If by the time we finish, because I'm not quite through yet, if by the time we finished, I hope to get to about 5,000. Well, she was a great photographer, and this is before we were married. She was older than me. In fact, I married an old woman. Didn't stop us staying married for 56 years after that, though. And that photograph there, actually, is from the Rothorn, which is a very unknown mountain, of the Matterhorn, which is a much better known mountain, and we climbed that one later on for her 60th birthday treat. Well, off we went, and the whole thing developed from the moment the company undertook to organize it for us. And the first thing they said is, you've got to have a doctor. Not that there's any legal requirement, but at your age, if you had anything happen to you, there'd be an awful row. So I recruited Henrietta Ellis, who happens to be incredibly distant related and lives, or her parents live in Emberton next door to us. Also, I found myself lumbered with my family, that is my youngest son and his wife and their 3 children. And that was the entire party, plus the leader whom Action Challenge provided. And the other thing they did for me is to organize a timetable with 1 extra day in the middle of the climb in order to get acclimatized. So we were at about 4,500 meters then, which is about the same height as the highest peaks in the Alps, to have that extra day to get used to the altitude, which is crucial. And the big joke is that my youngest son, the father of the family I took with me, had mountain sickness, which is the last thing we expected because he's actually a very experienced high-altitude mountaineer. It just happened to get him. It's luck. The good luck was that his youngest daughter, who is 12, Eva, is 70 years younger than me, so the age gap between us was 70, which is not bad. And she made it. Big girl, very athletic for her age. And as for the mountain itself, it is the highest freestanding mountain in the world. That means you've got to start from fairly low down, and that's why it takes so long to climb up it. Though you have to bear in mind at those altitudes you don't move very fast. You'd knacker yourself very quickly if you did. So that was the time element. And the other thing is that at its base there's a almost continuous level of cloud. And this means that it's always damp. If it isn't actually raining, it's damp. And there's a rainforest there, all jungly and lianas and mosses and lichens, and it's always damp. It's rather attractive, and there are a few monkeys in it as well. But that's the good news. The bad news is, on the second day of the ascent, you get out of this at about 3,500 meters or thereabouts, and now you're on top of the cloud. So you see absolutely nothing after that except the tops of the clouds as though you were in an aeroplane, which is very boring. The only thing worth seeing is there are a few jagged peaks on one shoulder of the mountain and a volcano called Meru about 30-40 miles away. Beyond that, you see the cloud, you might as well be in an aeroplane. By the way, mountaineering is not fun. Anybody who tells you different is a liar. And the mornings were bitterly cold as we got higher, especially when the wind was blowing. Of course, there's nothing to stop the wind. This is a freestanding mountain. And then the sun came out and you feel better straight away until the afternoon when you felt hot as hell. In the evening, the wind would be blowing again and it would be icy cold. The top of the mountain can be very, very cold indeed. They said they've had temperatures of -30 up there. So you carry an entire wardrobe with you, starting the tropical hot forest and ending up at, well, Arctic temperatures. I don't think we had it very badly. It was sort of -10, -15 probably. And the sun was shining, so it wasn't too bad. But we were lucky. I think we ought to go back a bit and say that the English were the sort of pioneers of modern mountaineering, because very simply in the middle of the 19th century they were the richest country on earth, and a lot of Englishmen had nothing much better to do. So what with that muscular Christianity, they took to climbing, and they invented alpinism. And among them, my wife's great uncle and grandfather, who were climbing in the Alps around Grindelwald in Switzerland in 1850. And the Alpine Club was the first Alpine club in the world, was founded at Christmas 1856, I think it was, and in March 1857, my wife's great-uncle, Frank Tuckett, joined, and he became a very famous mountaineer. He was even knighted by the King of Italy for services to geography. And ever since, there's been a member of the family in the Alpine Club. And my grandson, who very much wants to become a mountaineer and join, if he lives to be 62 and manages all that, he can claim 200 years of continuous family membership with the Alpine Club. I have to point out, this is my wife's family. It was my bad luck to marry into this loony mob. I had to join him, I got no option. First of all, I only have one charity. I don't believe in bits and pieces here and there. I think that's silly. You know, £5 here and £10 there, it's absurd. Secondly, I think a lot of the charities are not really particularly worthy because they don't address a much more general problem. And the general problem we have today is we live too long and we die miserably. In the old days, you died of a heart attack or somebody at you or something like that. But there's an awful lot of miserable old people about, and I know that because I nursed my own wife for 2 years. She had senile dementia, and it was a miserable business. So I had been giving money to the Willen Hospice for years, but I saw no earthly reason for stopping. And why do I give to charity? Very simple. It makes you feel good. You're doing something. It's as simple as that.